Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about why I think the 5.56 caliber and the AR-15 are going to be dominant in the United States for at least the next 100 years. Okay, and the reason why I'm doing this video is because lately I hear the military has been looking at a 6.8 caliber, or 6.8. Initially, I heard that they were going to try and replace the M4s or 416s, whatever they're using now. But initially, I heard that they were going to try and replace those guns. Now I've heard that no, they're not looking to do that. They're looking to replace the SAW, and then I heard no, they're actually looking for something new to go in between the SAW and the M4. Whatever they're doing, I have no idea. I'm not even sure they know what they're doing. But I'm gonna just focus on. I think that the 5.56 AR-15 is gonna be dominant in the United States, and I think that the military is also gonna come back to it. So if they try something else, they're gonna end up coming back to it. We're gonna go through the reasons why I think the common reason that people will bring up is that generally you win battles with more bullets than more powerful bullets. Okay, so as far as the 5.56, I mean, yeah, it will not penetrate modern body armor, right? Class 4 or class 3 plus. All right, I think that's what they're using, class 3 plus. But here's the thing: even with the modern plate armor, right? It just covers basically heart and lungs. All right, it covers a very small part of your body. It basically covers the vital area over here. Of course, if you get hit in the face, I mean, you're dead. But as far as the body, it just covers this area over here. They really can't make it that much bigger, any bigger than that, because you won't be able to move, right? And in most combat type of situations, I don't think anybody actually wants to rely on the body armor. I think most people would rather rely on some other piece of cover, right? Something that's metal, right? That has a better chance of stopping the bullets rather than on the plate themselves. So since the body armor is not the primary protection, right? Using something else like cover or concealment is the primary protection. That's why the armor is not going to get bigger, and it definitely does not make sense to me to try and invest in bullets that might penetrate that. Okay, and that I don't even think the 6.8 necessarily will, but I don't think that makes sense. So here's the thing: given that the body armor is so small, right? I've covered in other videos how you defeat body armor, and basically I've covered, for example, the zipper drill, where you start at the hip area, which is unarmored, and you walk your shots up, hit the hip. Nobody can stand on a broken hip, right? Then you hit the plate percussively, right? Some of the shots might hit the belly, which is not covered, right? And the lower belly here, it can't be covered because people need to be able to squat down. So this area here is not going to be covered. So you start here, you walk your shots up. The shots that hit the plate, basically that's gonna beat the guy up, right? So if the only shots you're getting are on the plate, even if these shots here don't land, if all you're hitting is plate, nobody can ignore that. Nobody can say, hey, it's just hitting me on the plate, I'm just gonna ignore that and just keep walking forward. It's gonna change what people do. Okay, so zipper drill, you start at the hip, walk your shots up, all right, and then you walk the shots up to the head. And if you haven't hit the hip area, if you hit the plate, they're going to start looking for cover. As they turn to the side, now you might get other openings on the side. So that's the reason why I think it doesn't make sense to invest in more powerful ammunition that might penetrate the body armor, because there's just so little of it, right? I think that's an important consideration. There's just so little of it. Why bother? Just if you put, you've got a 30-round magazine. All right, put enough bullets in that area. All right, even if you're aiming here, he's moving, you're moving a little bit. Chances are that some of the bullets are going to come off center anyway and hit other parts. And even if they hit an arm, right? Once somebody gets hit in the arm, they're not looking to press forward. They're looking to retreat. They're looking to get out of there. Okay, so wounding an enemy is very effective in the sense that now you've taken their desire to fight away from them. they might still be fighting, but they're not fighting for the purpose of defeating you. They're fighting for the purpose of survival. They're fighting for the purpose of, let me fight my way out of here so I can go get to a medic. Okay, so wounding somebody really changes the dynamic of the fight. So that's one of the reasons why I think they're going to stick. In the end, the military is going to stick with the 5.56. I mean, just when I train women, I'll put them on an AK-47. The recoil is just a little bit more than the 5.56, and immediately I can see a difference in just their ability to control the gun. Just in that slight increase, I can see that they have a little bit more difficulty with their follow-up shots. Okay, so just when you go from a 5.56 to a 7.62 by 3.9, there's a significant difference there that I can see it, and that applies with guys as well. Here's the thing, we have developed certain tactics, certain ways of doing things, right? Like take an AR, get on target, boom, 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 right? If you give me a more powerful caliber, and I do have more powerful calibers, even though I might be able to do that, I don't want to do that. In other words, because the gun is going to move around a little bit more, because it's going to recoil a little bit more, I'm going to be a little bit more conservative. Okay, so the techniques that we have developed today, right, are basically centered around the 5.56 recoil and also the 9mm recoil in the pistol. Okay, these techniques are coming out of the holster. Coming out of the holster, getting on target, boom, 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 boom. Basically we would have to go back to using different techniques, right? We'd have to reinvent different techniques or go back to an earlier period where, let's say, we were shooting a 45 ACPs or something. So the techniques that have been developed today are centered around those two cartridges, the 5.56 and the 9mm. So that's another reason why I think that even the military is going to come back to the 5.56. For civilians, aside from the fact that it's easier for people to shoot it, it's easier for the wives to shoot it. That's a big consideration, right? What's easiest for your wife to shoot. But the fact that there's just so many AR-15s out there. Now, the thing to consider, okay, is that let's look at the AK-47 versus the AK-74. Okay, with the AK-47, like, I don't know, there's like 50 million of them that have been produced around the world. AK-74 came around, which has certain benefits, but the AK-47 is still dominant simply because there's just so many of them out there. Okay, so when we look at the AK-47 versus AK-74 and which one, even in the Russian armies, yeah, they got AK-74s, but like half the armies got like AK-47s. Okay, so even when you look at AK-47, AK-74, they're still sticking to the gun that there's just more of. And right now in the United States, the main guns are AR-15s and 9mm handguns, lots of, particularly Glocks. Okay, so I think that those are the two guns that are going to be around for like the next 100 years as dominant guns. I think that the only time that you would actually see a change is if they change the chemistry, not the lead, not the metal, right, not the size of the bullet or the shape of the bullet, but if they change the chemicals that go inside it to provide the propellant. Okay, because the way it is right now, you put in a certain amount of gunpowder. There's only so much gunpowder that will fit in here. It will produce only so much energy. You can only tweak it so much by changing gunpowders. If they come up with something different, right, like something that would create the same amount of energy by burning, right, through a chemical reaction, as, let's say, the gunpowder that's in here, but with only half the amount, then I could see this changing, right? Because if I can create a cartridge that is, let's say, half the size of this, but still takes the same bullet here, same 5.56 bullet, and still moves it to the same velocity, creating the same energy, like, yeah, now that's something worth changing over to. Okay, so it's not changing the metal components that will make the world or make the U.S. military or the American civilian population move to something different. Not the metal, it's the chemicals That's what would make everybody change. And we kind of saw this with when we switched over from black powder to smokeless powder, right? There was a big benefit to moving to smokeless powder. You know, so yeah, everybody made that change. Okay, so that's what I think would have to happen in order for the United States civilians and military to move away from the 5.56. Now, what I want to do, put this to the side for a second, I want to kind of demonstrate a couple of points of what I mean as far as, or rather, just share my personal experience with fighting tactics, right? Because as you guys know, I do medieval combat. Okay, and I'm going to explain to you guys when I fight why I use this type of a sword instead of this type of a sword, right? So if you hold the two swords here together, you can see that this one over here, right, is obviously bigger. This one is shorter, lighter, okay? So this sword over here, because it's, first of all, this sword is not that much heavier than that sword. I mean, it's a little bit heavier, right? Maybe a couple of ounces, but the main difference is that the blade is wider up here, right? Whereas this one's a little bit wider in the back, so the weight is distributed differently. So because this blade is a little bit wider, I'm sorry, a little bit longer, all right, what this does is it allows me to make more popular blows, more powerful blows. Because the blade is longer, I'm making a bigger arc, right? The tip makes a bigger arc. So because it's making a bigger arc, it's gonna achieve a higher velocity. My hand's moving at the same speed, but the tip is moving faster because it's further out. But in order to move this sword, I have to generate more power from down here, right? So with this sword here, all my power comes from my lower body, right? And I rely on that. And if I'm gonna turn this sword over, you see how I make these large rotational cuts, right? You see how I'm making a large rotational cut because I need to. I need more space to generate that extra power, right? With this sword over here, okay, this sword over here, it's shorter, the weight's further back. With this sword here, because it's not so tip heavy, I can keep this sword right in front of my face and just give it a little bit of a twist, and I can make a cut, right? I can make a cut, right? And the other thing I can do is instead of having to make a large rotational cut, instead of having to go from here all the way to here, see how I'm coming around my head, right? With this sword, I can rotate the sword out here, right? I can rotate the sword out here because it's a lighter sword. I can't do it as quickly I can't do it as easily with that other sword. Okay? So I am I fight competitively with the sword and shields. I've posted videos, you guys have seen that. So I can use either one of these swords, right? Now in the fighting that we do, the blows are self-acknowledged. So basically, I gotta hit you hard enough, right? Because we're wearing armor. I gotta hit you hard enough so that you acknowledge that the blow was a good blow, and you're gonna accept it as a hit. Okay. If I don't hit you hard enough, you're not gonna accept it, and basically, I gotta keep fighting. Okay. That's the general idea with that. Okay. So you would think that, hey, let me take the harder hitting sword so I can hit as harder, and I can get that person to accept the blows. The problem here is because with the bigger sword, or the heavier, or the sword that hits harder, I have to generate more power from here. Okay, I have to move more of my body. My opponent has a better chance of seeing what I'm about to do and countering it. And one of the counters might just be to step back a little bit. Okay, whereas with this sword here, right, because I'm not starting my blows from over here, I'm starting from here, and I can initiate a shot really fast, and that's kind of the same as if we're fighting, right? If I'm going to throw a punch, right? So I got my arms over here, right? If I'm here and I throw a punch straight here, right? Boom. First of all, my hands are guarding my face, right? And from here I can acknowledge. Now, if I bring my hand back over here, if I cock back, yeah, I can throw a much more powerful shot. But what am I doing there? I'm giving up two things. Number one, I'm bringing my hand back. I'm going to get more power out of it, but I also just created an opening that my opponent can punch through. So as I bring my hand back, if his hands are forward, all he has to do is just follow my hand back, hit the opening. Maybe he's not going to hit me as hard, but I'm still going to feel it, okay? So it doesn't benefit me to bring my arm back to make a more powerful punch and open up my defense. It makes more sense for me to fight here and launch my shots from here, okay? And by the way, I used to teach boxing, so that's how I know all these things. So it makes more sense for me to start from here, make less powerful shots, but maintain a tighter defense. And the other thing is, from here, my shots are faster, right? See how they're faster? Because then they're traveling a shorter distance. So because it's traveling a shorter distance, there's less time for my opponent to know. Whereas if it comes back here, right? Like, you just saw it come back. What do you think it's going to do if it comes back? It's not going to go forward, right? So if it comes back and forward, it's traveling a longer distance. It's easier for my opponent to track it. Okay, so that's why, even though I can use either one of these swords when I fight, I choose not to use the harder hitting sword. I prefer to use the lighter sword that hits lighter. Now, I said earlier that the blows are self-acknowledged. If I don't hit my opponent hard enough, they don't have to accept it, right? And that's fine. I got a light sword that I can move really quickly, right? So I can hit him multiple times. So that's how I win fights, right? So got my sword here, so I can basically throw multiple shots, right? Yeah, I can throw multiple shots because I have a lighter sword that moves faster. And the fact is that when I throw my shots, I don't expect any one of them to be a killing shot. In fact, a lot of my shots, the vast majority of my shots are distraction shots. So if I'm here, right, I throw a couple of shots here. Okay? The purpose of these shots here was to get his defense up there, right? Boom, boom, that's a distraction. So I can take that leg, okay? So all those other shots, those multiple shots that I did, were just a distraction so I could take that leg shot. And if I was doing it with this sword requires a lot more wind up. That's a lot of energy to throw so I can get that leg shot, okay? That's a lot of energy that I'm using up. And here's the thing, when I'm fighting, there's only so much energy that I have stored up. I mean, the typical fight lasts for about 10 minutes. When I'm doing my sword practicing, or rather, not that the fight can last 30 seconds if you win, but usually when I'm practicing, I will go for about 10 minutes before I tire out, and I'm like, okay, I need to take a break. And the reason why I take the break, sometimes I can push through it, but I don't want my form to start breaking down. I don't want to start developing bad habits. So at the point where I think that I'm going to start, that my form's going to start breaking down, I'm going to start using bad techniques, I stop fighting. And that's usually about 10 minutes in. So so I have, let's say, about 10 minutes of energy to use, and I want to use it conservatively. I don't want to waste shots. And also, if I use a sword like this, that's gonna tire me out a lot faster. So it makes a lot more sense to use the lighter hitting sword that I can make lots of hits with, and doesn't tire me out. And I'm not investing too much in any one shot because I don't expect any one shot to actually be the killing shot. The vast majority of the shots, like I'll usually throw 4, 5, 6 shots in order to land one shot after. And I think that is in line with, from what I hear, the military in combat basically uses up about 50,000 rounds of ammunition in order to kill one person, okay? And it only takes one bullet to kill one person. So the other 49,999 rounds are to create an opportunity, all right, to get that one bullet where it needs to go, okay? But you need a total of 50,000 rounds in order to do that, right? To get that one kill. So that's why I think that again, I'm applying my experience with the sword fighting, the way I practically fight, where I choose to use a lighter sword where I can throw more shots rather than use a heavier, harder hitting sword where I'm going to throw less shots. I'd rather use the lighter sword and be able to throw more shots. So I think that that's the reason why the military is going to come back to the 5.56, because they have the ability to put lots of bullets downrange, you know, towards the bad guys, to create opportunities. Because remember, there's a lot of it's suppression fire. A lot of it is, let's say, to flush them out, right? Like put bullets on, allow bullets in this area to get them to move to another area. So a lot of the ammunition is used up that way. Suppression fire, you know, to flush people, you know, or the enemy towards in another direction. And that's the reason why I think that the military is going to stick with the 5.56. And well, not the reason why civilians are going to stick with the 5.56. The main reason why I think civilians are going to stick with the 5.56 is firstly because we've got so much of the 5.56 223 stockpiled, because we already own probably more than 30 million, probably closer to 50 million AR-15s already. Right, so that's another important reason. But also the techniques that we have been developing, the things that I teach, are based on the 5.56 caliber and the 9mm in the pistol. So if you come at me and you say, hey, we're no longer using 5.56, we're now using 308s, right? So here you go. I got a 308 here, right? Much bigger than this. This definitely has an advantage in that 500 to 800 yard range, okay? Problem is, look at the woods over here. I can't even see past 100 yards. In fact, I had to cut a line just so I can get to 200, 250 yards here, okay? So part of the country where I'm in, you can't see past 100 or 200 yards, okay? So right away, the 308 is not that useful to me in that sense, okay? Because I don't get to shoot long distances. I have to travel quite a distance to get to a range where I can shoot 600-700 yards. So here's the thing, what I was going to say. If you were to say, hey, from now on we're going to be shooting 308s, the techniques that I have learned, that I have been developing with the AR-15, are probably not going to work so well with the 308. I can't have somebody with 308 going, blah, 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 blah. No, because it's going to be more like, bah, bah, bah. It won't work. Same thing with the 9mm. The pistol technique that I use with the 9mm, right? You put somebody on the 40 cal, and I own 40 cals. I try to do them on the 40 cal. Yes, I can do them. I'm not as accurate. I have to fight harder to get back on target. So I can't use those techniques, right? I can't use the 9mm techniques as well with a 40 cal, 45. Definitely not a 10mm. So that's one of the things that's in the back of my mind, right? Because remember, this is a fighting gun. Okay, this is a fighting rifle. The purpose of this is to fight. Okay, so what it ultimately comes down to is what's going to make me fight better. All right, is having more ammunition, is having bigger ammunition going to make me fight better, or is having less powerful ammunition that I can move around more quickly with, put more rounds on target, is that going to make me fight better? Now, I have not been in a situation, and I'm very happily, I've not been in a situation where I'm actually fighting with guns, but I regularly fight with the swords, and I can tell you from my practical experience, right, and I fight competitively to win, right, I have a choice of this, or I have a choice of this, harder hitting, lighter and faster. I go with lighter and faster to win, right? Lighter and faster is what wins fights for me. So that's my experience, right? And that's probably the most valuable thing that I can offer, because I have not been in a situation where I'm actually fighting with this, so I can't say definitively anything with that. Anything I say is basically secondhand information. But with this, I can give you guys first-hand information because I regularly fight with this kind of stuff. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Drop some comments below. If you disagree with me, that's perfectly fine, man. I value everybody's opinions. Please let me know in the comment section what you think and why. If you're not a member of the channel, subscribe. Make sure you guys are following me on Odyssey, which is an uncensored platform. My channel name over there is Pocono Tactical. And Odyssey is spelled ODYSEE.com, right? That's where you'll find that uncensored channel, where I know that will be around for a very long time, whereas over here on YouTube, I don't know how long this channel will be here. So thanks for watching. I'll talk to you all soon.